Hello everyone! For those who don't know me, I'm Kat. I'm a wife, a homeschool mom, and an avid reader. It is the first week in the Black Cat Carnival, and as thrill seekers, we are trying to escape. So what have I been reading so far? Because I did not start this before the month started or at the beginning of the month. It is the 2nd, and I have actually already finished my first book. I did read Saga. This was for my top of my TBR. I believe that was the Heads Up prompt. No, it was the Unfair Wheel prompt. So I have that one done, and I really enjoyed this one. There were a few things going into it that I had forgotten. Only because it had been 2 years since I had read the last one, but the authors were really great in kind of reminding you through the text what had happened before without dragging down the story. But I had a great time. I am not quite so sure on Mom's new haircut, but lots of fun. There were some things I had forgotten, but I remembered as I read them. So great time. Oh, great time overall. I do not know why I'm yawning so much. I already took a nap. But that brings me to my, what was that one? Good Fortune pick, I believe. I have a map down here, but it's not the prompts. Let me see if I can find the prompts somewhat quickly without having to go to Alright, I can't find it right now. I'll look later. I'm pretty sure though that this is the Good Fortune, which was a... See, now I've gone completely blank. I know how to find it quickly. Yay for Discord. Graphics. Okay. So, Saga was for Unfair Wheel. I have already submitted that. So, have helped my team. Good Fortune is most read / favorite genre. And for that one, I am reading Game of Fate. If you watched my TBR, I kind of went into detail of the fact that I have read this series accidentally, kind of out of order. After reading A Touch of Darkness, I should have read Game of Fate. It has been several months since I read A Touch of Darkness, and now I'm going back and reading Hades' point of view. And I'm really enjoying the little reminders to what's going on as I go through it. I have a pretty decent memory once I start rereading something or get into a series. It's just not always one that, like, when I go, what happened in A Touch of Darkness? I couldn't really tell you all the parts, but as I'm reading Game of Fate, it's kind of triggering those memories of reading then. So, Hades has been told by the fates that he is destined to marry Persephone and make her his queen. Where I'm at right now, I'm just about a third of the way through. We have just gotten to the contract he has made with Persephone, and he has told her that she must make life in the underworld. And I'm excited to see. One thing I remember was that there's a point coming up where Persephone goes into the underworld without Hades. And he basically comes up and rescues her. I think it was Persephone and Hermes went first. And Hades comes and rescues her. And I'm curious to see where Hades was at this moment, because she had gone up to his office and he wasn't there. So, I'm going to get into it. I have Mel's sprints for the Black Carnival. And I'm going to get some reading done tonight. I'll check in later. Alright, well, book number 2 is done. I have finished a game of Fate. I really enjoyed seeing things from Hades' point of view, and seeing a lot of the background. We see him interacting with a lot of the gods and other goddesses as that we didn't get to see when we got Persephone's point of view. So it's a great one, and I really recommend that if you're going to read them, read A Touch of Darkness, then read A Game of Fate, because otherwise you're spending a lot of time trying to remember what happened when because there's events that I thought happened in A Touch of Darkness that apparently happened in A Touch of Ruin. So, I am done with that one. I do have another game to read before I continue Persephone's point of view. But for now, I'm going to hit the pause button on Hades and Persephone. And I am going to start my next book. I'm thinking, I'm leaning toward doing One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which is the author I've read before. I think that was Heads Up. For the Heads Up building. And this one is a woman marries her high school sweetheart and then on their first anniversary, he disappears in a helicopter over the Pacific Ocean. And then as she's rebuilding her life, he is found alive. And so she has to figure out what she's gonna do. So I'm gonna start that one next. I think I am still waiting on Written in My Own Heart's Blood to be finished, or for my turn to come up. And Libby now says available soon. So I'm thinking it'll be just a few more days, but we will have to see. But I think I'm gonna get ready to go to bed. I'm tired. It's been a long day, and the gym kicked my butt today. So I'm gonna get in bed, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. So today has been just slightly a whirlwind of a day. I had no kid last night, so I did get to sleep in a little bit. Got up and got my morning started just before 9 o'clock, knowing I have a graduation at 11 o'clock. Make my coffee, eat my breakfast, and start One True Loves. I did not want to put this book down at all. I happened to take a moment to peek at how far I was in the book. I was 25% through the book, which is great. It's gonna, do an update, check the time, and realized it was 10:45. I had to be at the graduation at 11. Luckily, it was right down the road. So I quickly threw on an outfit and drove to our school and threw on makeup right in the parking lot and walked in the door at 11:01. That is how close I live to the church / school. This is not the first time I've done this. I did it for prom, and prom I had a little more warning, but I lost track of time. So after graduation, I come home, check on my husband, and then I start my story. At one point, I paused my story for a minute, completely forgetting to do any updates at all. And then sat down with my husband for a few minutes, and we figured out what we were going to do for dinner. Called my mother-in-law, set it up. We're going to pick them up at 5 o'clock. My daughter and my mother-in-law at 5 o'clock. And go for dinner. I, again, start my story and get to the point where I can tell everything's wrapping up. And I peek at the time, and it is 4:45. Luckily, I'm already dressed, but my husband was not, so I had to let him know and do all that. And we still have a few minutes before we have to leave, so I was like, I'm gonna finally record an update. One True Love's amazing book. Taylor Jenkins Reid hits it out of the park. I liked Daisy Jones and the Six, but I was not this captivated by it. Now, granted, I have read other books kind of similar to this, and really enjoyed them. But this one, maybe it's because I'm in a different season of life than I was before, but I did not want to stop reading it or listening to it. I had it on audio. And it is a sweet story, but it's also a heartbreaking and tough story. Again, I've already said the premise. You guys just listened to it a few minutes ago. But to be in that position of you've been together for 9 years, it was 9 years when he proposed, when Jesse proposes. So they're together 10 years, and then it's gone. And the heartbreak that Taylor Jenkins Reid just writes on the page for you to see was so hard. And then for life to start to put your life back together, just to have it fall apart again. Definitely hit it out of the park. A 5-star read for the month, my first one for the month. And it really makes me excited to, I have another book on my shelf that I want to read. That I want to read now to find out more with this with this author, because there's such a big difference in my mind between Daisy Jones and the Six and One True Loves. The writing probably is very similar. It's been a while since I listened to Daisy Jones and the Six, but the way that the two stories made me feel are very different. And that leads me to having to get my next book. I'm not going to pick right this moment what I'm going to read next, because we are getting ready to go to dinner in just a few minutes. So what I'm reading next, don't quite know. You'll find out in just a second. Hello everyone. I am so glad that I waited until after dinner to pick my next book, because we just got confirmation that we have entered into a building. I'm not gonna disclose which building it was, because we're at the very beginning of the readathon and I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but I will share the prompts. So you have to know, you have to have seen the video to know which building we're in. So this one had 2 prompts. The first prompt is the one I'm going to read for first, and it is a cover that is mostly your favorite color. And I have picked If I Stopped Haunting You by Colby Wilkins. Hopefully you can see that cover okay. I guess this is the camera. So it's mostly purple, over 50% purple, I would say. Purple is my favorite color, and I didn't realize this until just now, but I've been following this author on Instagram for a long time before, I think even long before she was a published writer. So I'm excited to continue this one. I do have this one on NetGalley, and this one sounds like it's Beach Reads by Emily Henry meets Disney's Haunted Mansion. We have 2 writers who or at least one writer. The other one may not be a writer, but we have a writer who is kind of has writer block and is going to visit a haunted mansion to try to trigger her horror writing. So I'm gonna go because Sprint's it's the talky bit, and I will check in when I get a good ways into this book. So I am now 41% through. If I stopped haunting you, I am kind of struggling with some of the trope claims in this book. And here's why. I looked at some of the reviews because this is an arc. I looked at some of the reviews, and one of the complaints everyone was talking about was how fast they go from enemies to lovers. Because yes, they go from enemies to lovers pretty much in a day, if that long. Well, a day to go from enemies to starting to think about each other not as enemies. Excuse me. And there's a comment that is made in the book about them not really knowing each other. So the premise is we have Penelope or Pen, and she is an Indigenous American author. No problems. And she's looked up to this other Indigenous author, Neil Storm. And then, I guess as she's read his stuff, as she's become an author, she starts to feel that he's a sellout. And that's where her anger toward him comes from. That's her enemy feelings, is because she feels he's a sellout. And when you look at it just at that level, just getting her point of view, you're like, okay, look, you don't hate him, you just don't like what choices he's made. Well, we also get Neil's point of view in this. Neil is the other Indigenous American author, and through his point of views, we find out that even he has realized that he's become a sellout. He has changed his stories, edited them to a point of making them acceptable to his publisher. But really, when you compare his original manuscript with the published edition, they're totally different stories. And he describes his work as cookie cutter horror. And so it's not totally surprising to me that within a day of this retreat, they are not really enemies. So that's kind of my dislike of the trope description, but I am totally enjoying this book. So we're at the point where it is shifting. It's a romance and ghost story. And so we're kind of shifting from the romance into the ghost story. And I'm really enjoying it. We do have this haunted castle that they are in. I was slightly confused when I was reading it because they start on the trip and they visit this other castle, but it's not super clear that they're just visiting this other castle. I thought that they were staying in this first castle, which is all in ruins. And then they continue the trip and you're like, oh, okay. So that's one of those other small things that I kind of wish were tweaked a little bit. Now, one thing about the edition that I am reading is I am reading an uncorrected arc, and so I am not looking at, I am not going to pick holes in spelling errors or punctuation errors or any of that, because I know all of that is going to come in there when it comes out finally. So that's not a problem, and I hope that enough people kind of make comments about some of these not inconsistencies, but issues that are not quite as clear that would help the story. Overall, I am loving the story. A lot of people have given this novel pretty low ratings. And honestly, it kind of breaks my heart because the writing is well done. What's on the page is well done. There are some things that I wish were tweaked a little bit to make it clear. And I really wish that the PR team would remove the enemies to lovers, because I really don't feel that that's a true representation of what we're looking at. And I think that's causing some of these lower ratings with this book. But that is my opinion, so take it as you will. Today, I don't know. I really would like to finish this book, but I don't know if it's going to happen. So, we're going to see, and hopefully I can finish this book and help my team a little bit on escaping this building that we are stuck in. So, I will check in with you later. I am checking in again before I've even read any more of my book, because we have, the Thrill Seekers have escaped our first building and immediately entered into another building. And so we have 2 new prompts. I have not finished my first. Didn't finish my favorite color covered book. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe it'll fit. And it will. For our second building, we have 2 options for breaking out. One option is to, I have totally just gone blank. One option is to pick a book with exactly 3 words, and articles count. For the other option is a cover that matches your current outfit, up to your interpretation, could be colors or vibes. Well, I can announce my shirt has a ghost on it, so I am going to continue reading If I Stopped Haunting You. and count that for that prompt. Color wise, it does not match necessarily, but vibes, it totally does. So I am going to continue If I Stopped Haunting You and work on getting us out of our second building. I'll check in at the end. Hello everyone. So I have finished If I Stopped Haunting You. I had a great time with it. I could see where some of the comments came from, complaining about certain aspects. But at the same time, I felt that the author did a great job of kind of explaining where some of those miscommunications happened, because that's really what they were just miscommunications between, or denial. But I had a great time. I gave it 4 stars, and I have submitted my NetGalley review for that, and the only thing I have left would be to submit it to the website, the sale sites later on. But for now, I can't do that until it's closer to being released. So the next book I'm going to read is She's Not Sorry. And I'm going to read this for the 3-word prompt for us to escape the current building we are in. If we finish this prompt before I get this book finished, I will put it with probably put it with the author I've read before. This is the same author who wrote The Good Girl. And I really enjoyed that one when I read it in March. And so I'm going to do this one, and its premise is what? ICU nurse accidentally uncovers a patient's frightening past in this chilling thriller. So that's kind of the bold description that's there on Storygraph, which, especially with thrillers, that's about all I want to know, because too many of them give away too much information. So I'm gonna get started on this in just a few minutes. I actually have to go and do my eye appointment and get my allergy shots, and I'll read this while I'm waiting and whatnot. So I will check in when I get about a third of the way through. Here we are, a third of the way through She's Not Sorry, and I'm having back and forth feelings on this one. And some of this is because I have read The Good Girl, and I'm really hoping that it's not one of those rinse and repeats that we saw in The Good Girl, where I don't want the plot or the scenario to end up to be the same, but in different skin, if that makes any sense. This story, we're following an ICU nurse. Excuse me. And the text opens up with her getting a call from her daughter, who's in high school, I believe. She's in school. I do know that. I'm pretty sure it's high school. And it turns out her daughter is being held hostage. And this is not a spoiler. This is all in the very first. This is all in the prologue before chapter 1. And then it kind of backtracks in the story. So we see this ICU nurse. She is working, she's just doing her job, but one of the patients is a woman who has... Are you okay, Bubba? I have a coughing dog. Goodness gracious. All done? Okay. ICU nurse patient who was found at the bottom of this bridge. And it's suspected that she jumped and was trying to commit suicide. Well, quickly in the book we find out that this same bridge, our ICU nurse's sister committed suicide at the same spot years before. And so she kind of has that personal connection there, but I'm a little confused at what's going on. And I am really afraid that this is going to turn out a very specific way and end with the same revelation that the good girl did. I'm hoping not. But I'm going to keep reading and see what's going on. Right now, so far, there's just been a lot of kind of everyday life with a few questionable things going on. Like she gets locked in her basement randomly. There is a murderer, or not murderer, there is a attacker who is attacking women. Started out, he was robbing them. One of the cases, he's raped the woman. But he's breaking into the house as women are coming home from work or whatever. So he's watching them. And so we have a lot of this going on in the background. So I'm not sure where this story is going. But it is whatever time it is. It's after 9 o'clock. And I'm getting sleepy. So I'm gonna call it for tonight. I read the first 9 chapters. So I'm happy where I'm at. And I'm going to keep going and see where we end up. I am so confused right now. I just finished part 1 of She's So Sorry. She's Not Sorry. She's Not Sorry. And the events going on here, like, I'm questioning the timeline. I am questioning the timeline of events. I feel like we're, I don't know, stuck in a loop, maybe? But what a weird situation. I'm going to keep reading. I am at 73%, so I'm nearly done with the book. And I wish I knew someone who had read the book, because I need someone to unload thoughts on. I have so many questions right now, and the only way I know to get them is to keep reading. So I will check in later. And She's Not Sorry is done. There is so much going on in this book. I don't even know how to explain it without giving too much away. So I'm just gonna say I had a great time with this book. My head is spinning. I got wrapped up in the book and forgot to cook my family dinner until my mother-in-law showed up for dinner. Oops. But overall, great time. The only thing I didn't like about the book is it was an e-arc, and so there was the same type of typo throughout the whole book. And that was, if we had a word that was a letter blend, including the letter L, so like SL in slip, or FL in flip, or so on and so forth. If it was something, a letter and then L, there was an extra space in the word. So floor, or flat. Both of those, constantly had it. The other thing I thought was weird, now that I'm thinking about it, is they live in Chicago, and their apartment, they call it a flat, but they have no English ties. So I don't know if that's the author. Who is the author? I don't know if that means that the author has some English ties, or maybe Chicago does that. Mary Kubica, Kubica. So I don't know if she has English ties or what. Let's see what it says here. No, she's born in Illinois. So I don't know. But I have now read The Good Girl, which was her first novel, her debut. And now She's Not Sorry, which is her most recent. And the fear I had at the beginning did not come to be, and for that I am thankful, because I think I would have been disappointed had it turned out to be similar to that. So what I have now is I need to submit this for a 3-word title and see if that gets us out. I'll have to look and see. Yeah, so this is prompt 1, free climb. So I'm going to I'm gonna submit this book, and then I will pick my next book, because we need to get out of this building. But I am going to end this vlog here, And I will see you guys next time. Bye.